Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Female Empowered Podcast. Your source, sorry, not sauce, your source for everything boutique fitness, wellness, and healthcare, and how to build a profitable, sustainable business. And today, in continuation of Money Month, Finance Month, we're going to actually talk about what you can do inside your business in terms of pricing, pay rates, et cetera, so you can keep more profit in your pockets. Okay. So I cannot tell you the number of businesses that I speak to, that I work with, that I consult with, or do coaching calls with, that I've met over the years that are underwater in terms of profit. And what I mean by that is the way that they have set up their business, no fault of their own, through no fault of their own, they were following a guideline that they thought was correct and was not. That the way they're operating is just not enough to produce profit. So, for example, what they're charging with the amount of clients they have is not enough to even meet their expenses, or it's just enough to break even with expenses, not including what they pay themselves as business owners. Or what they're paying out to their team is too high that they don't have enough to pay the expenses or themselves. And that doesn't mean pay your people less. It means you have your pricing and your expenses have to match up in order for there to be some money left over in the end. And a lot of us, when we first go into business, we will look around the industry, competitive landscape, find other businesses that are doing similar things to us, and we'll just copy their pricing. But you don't know what's going on in that business. You don't know if they have really low expenses because maybe they don't have any rent in that building, or they've negotiated a really good deal in that building or in that space and they don't have any a high rent, or their operational costs are very low, or the owner is doing all the work and not paying themselves, or they're not profitable at all. So we should not base our pricing solely on our competitors. And we should not have pricing be our competitive advantage. So, in other words, we don't want to compete on price because it's a race to the bottom. Okay. Everyone can undercut you and come in lower at price, and that therefore you'll never win. So pricing should not necessarily be our unique selling proposition in the type of industry that we are in. All right. So I want to go through a few little stats here that I pulled up while I was researching for this episode. And I wanted just to kind of give you some background as to the landscape in boutique fitness and wellness. So, as of 2024, Hapana came out with a survey that was done by McCrindle that said there's approximately 40 to 50,000 boutique fitness studios across the United States. So that means, small yoga, Pilates, bar, spinning, some small HIIT studios across the United States. The majority, I couldn't find an actual percentage on this, but the majority are owned by women. I know that in the physical therapy industry, women not rank men. 65% of physical therapists are women. I'm going to say probably 65% of boutique fitness owners are women also. Don't quote me on that. I'm not quoting it from anywhere. It's in my own head. Annual revenue for a single location of a micro gym, which is what small independent gyms, can be anywhere from merely $50,000 to $350,000. So not very much. All right. So if you're doing over $350,000 in annual revenue, you're above average for this industry. Now, this is what I thought was really interesting. The average small business owner, and this is a study by Fundara, which actually does a lot of finances and other revenue statistics. Okay. So here are some, this was as of the end of 2023. So we have a little bit of time between then and now. But so small business owners with no employees, just themselves, average annual revenue of almost $50,000, which is what I said. Okay. The average small business owner takes home $71,000 a year. So if you're paying yourself more than $71,000 a year, you're above average. Okay. 86.3% of small business owners take home less than $100,000 a year. So if you're paying yourself more than $100,000 a year as a business owner, you are in like the top 18% of business owners, small business owners. Okay. So in 2016, the number of non-employer firms making $1 to $2 million in revenue increased from 35,000 to 36,000. So if you are generating more than $1 million, okay, there's only about 35,000 other small businesses with no employees that are doing that. All right. Let's see. Okay, I think that's, yeah. And this has been true across the board for several years. 82% of businesses, small businesses that fail, it's not profit, it's not revenue, it's lack of cash flow. So that means they don't have enough money to grow they don't have enough money in the bank. Okay, they don't have enough money in the bank. So that's a big thing. We really want to make sure that we have money in the bank so we can make these decisions on how to grow our business. And today I'm going to talk to you about how to set your pricing, how to set your pay rates, how to determine how much you can afford in rent. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about healthy percentages and things of that nature. So let's get down to brass tacks. All right. So what we should do first is determine our break-even point. So how do we do that? The first thing you're going to do is you are going to add up all of your monthly expenses. So if you've been in business for at least a year, you can get an average of your monthly expenses by looking at your previous year's P&L. Okay, so what you can do, this is just the easiest, straightforward way to do it. Go to your QuickBooks, open up your profit and loss statement for the year. Okay, so the year of 2024, January to December of 2024. At close to the bottom, not at the very bottom, but close to the bottom, there will say total operating expenses. You're going to take that number and you're going to divide it by 12. And that will be your average monthly expenses. So that should include your salary if you're an S Corp. Okay. That should include your payroll for your team. That should include all your rent, et cetera, et cetera. So say your monthly expenses are $100,000. Okay. Actually, let's do $120,000 just for equal numbers. So your monthly expenses are $120,000. Divided by 12 is $10,000 a month. Right? So $10,000 a month is what you need to bring in to break even. So if you're not an S Corp and you're a sole proprietor, an LLC, and you're not paying yourself a salary, you need to make sure that you bring in more than $10,000 a month so that you can take a distribution. If you need help understanding S Corp status, go back and listen to the episode we just aired with Danielle Hayden, where I asked her all sorts of questions. She is a bookkeeper and a former CFO. So I asked her all sorts of questions about those things. Okay. So now you have $10,000 a month that you need to bring in. Okay. So how then do you decide how much you need to have in terms of visits. You're going to take $10,000 and you're going to divide it by how many visits you have on the schedule. So if you have, let's just do this even numbers again. So if you have to bring in $10,000 a month just to break even, okay, and you have, let's say, 20 hours available a week, okay, so that's 80 hours a month. So you take 10,000, you divide it by 80, and you're going to get that you need to be earning $125 an hour at the minimum in order for you to break even. And that means you have to be 100% utilized. Okay. Now, I do not believe it is smart nor sustainable to be in business just to break even. Okay. Now, if you're a first year business owner, yes, you're going to probably lose money your first year. That's okay. But I'm talking about if you're 2 years in, 3 years in, 5 years in, 10 years in, you need to be doing more than break even, I would imagine. All right. So if we want the suggested profit, healthy percentage for profit is 15%, 15% or greater. 15%. Okay. So if you want to add 15% profit on top of $10,000, okay, then what you want to do is what's 15% of 10,000? Okay. So you're going to add another 1,500 onto there. So if you're going to have $11,500 divided by 80 sessions is what you have available, you need to be charging a minimum of $144 a session. Okay. So that's how you decide what you should be charging. Now, if you've already set your prices, then you can work another way where you say, okay, I need to bring in $11,500 a month. And I've set my pricing and it's $125. So $125 a session. That means you need to do 92 sessions in that month. Okay. Now, if you're like, well, I have classes, how do I figure that out? That just means you need to do $125 an hour. So if you're doing, or $144 if we go back to that other example. So if you have a class and you have $144 that you have to make in that hour, okay, and you have 5 people, you have space for 5 people, everyone should be paying at least $29 for that class. Okay. So that is the minimum hourly rate you need to be taking in order for you to break even. And then we did the calculation for profit. So let's talk about a larger business. Okay. Let's talk about my business. Okay. So we did in 2024, $1.6 million in revenue, Pilates in the Grove. Okay. We wanted, at our goal was to have a 15% profit. So if I do 1,600,000 times 0.15, that's 240,000 in profit. And I go back to 1,600,000. That means we had to bring in 184. No, actually, I'm sorry. That's not the right calculation. I'm going backwards. So if we want to have a 15% profit, right? Then, and my monthly expenses each and every month, because again, if I go back and I calculate our monthly expenses were about $920, $920,000, okay, divided by 12, okay, that's about $76,000 a month. All right. So that's a big, heavy nut to have to carry. So How much do I need to bring in each and every month? So $76,000 each and every month. So what I do is I back into that. Okay. So if I say that if I'm just going to think of classes, right? We know that our average price per class is $31. So if I say divided by 31, I need to have 2,473 class visits a month. And I just calculate that. What does that mean? If I divide that by 4, I tell my team we need to have 600 visits a week in our classes. So what happens to some business owners is they don't even have the capacity to have 600 visits a week. So that becomes a problem. If you don't have enough space in your studio or you don't have enough instructors to teach those classes, then you are already underwater before you even start. No amount of work, all your hard work won't even get you to break even. That's a problem. Okay. So it's really important for you to keep measuring and set your goals based on the fact that, do you have the capacity to hit this goal? Or what is the alternative? You need to raise your prices. You need to get more equipment. You need to hire more staff. You need to lower your expenses. Those are all ways that you can do that. Okay. So the first thing I would do to determine your pricing is figure out what you need to bring in to break even. Okay. And set your prices that way, at least. Certainly, you can do some market analysis and look at local competitor pricing, but I would look at that pricing in terms of how you're going to articulate the value of your service, especially if you're higher than some of your local competition. It just means how are you going to come forth with your messaging and resonate and attract your best buyer. So when you look at market analysis, you're really looking at what kind of unique value proposition can you articulate in your messaging and your website and your social media and your marketing so that it warrants this higher price. We're looking for certain demographic, right? So if our sessions are $30, $35, $40 a session for classes, we're not going to go after the bargain hunters that are looking for a $49 a month membership. Those are not our people. We're looking for people that are probably making over $100,000 a year, that have some disposable income, okay, and value that kind of exercise modality. Okay, so now how do you determine, right, what you need to be paying your team? Okay, so a healthy profit margin, again, that we said, is about 15% profit. Okay, so if you take each individual session, right? Each individual session. So let's say you charge $150 for a private session or a physical therapy session. Okay, $150. So $150 is what you charge. So 15% of profit should come off the top. So minus $20. No, minus 20. Let me see, times 0.15 is like 722. So I was close. So 150 minus $22 for profit is 120. So now you're left with $128. Okay. Healthy percentage for your gross margin is usually around 70%. So what that means is we want to pay our practitioners around 30%. Okay. So 30% of 150 is 45. Okay. So, and I'm going to show you why this is. So $45 for an employee, not an independent contractor, can take a little bit more, but I recommend around 30%. So they're going to get $45. So minus 45. Okay. That's 105. Now we want to take profit, right? So that was another 22. So minus 22. Now you're left with $83. Okay. And that's $83 that you have to spend on rent, operational costs, your salary, your administrator salary, et cetera, et cetera. So $83 ends up being about 50 to 53% of the income. And that's usually about right for brick and mortar businesses. Okay. We generally say about 10% of your income goes to marketing, around 10%. Okay. And around 10% goes to rent. Okay. So let's go back to that $150. Okay. You minus 45 to your clinician or instructor, minus 22 goes to your profit. Okay. Now, if you're going to say we're going to spend about 10% on marketing, so 10% minus 8 goes to your marketing. Okay. 10% goes to your rent. Okay. So now we say minus 15 goes to rent. Okay. And I actually did the marketing wrong. So I have to do another 7. Okay. So now we're down to $53. Okay. You have to pay your team, yourself, your equipment maintenance with that $53. Okay. So this is again why if you're paying your team 50%, right? So 50% of 75, 50% of 150 is 75. So minus $75. Okay. Now you have to go to profit. So that was what, minus $22. Okay. You have some in marketing. So that's another $15, right? Now you have in rent, that's another $15. Now you're down to $23 of what you need to pay in payroll taxes and all that stuff, which is why it's not sustainable to be paying your team members 50% of the revenue that you bring in. If you say, well, I need to pay them $150, $75, that means your pricing should be closer to like $225 in order for that to make sense in terms of how much profit you're keeping in your business. And I know that this is probably, you guys are probably oozing information out of your ears because numbers, especially when you're just listening to them, at least for me, is very hard. I need to like have a paper and pencil and write these kind of things down. But we're going to include in this episode the healthy percentages that we recommend for our team. And Danielle and I did this. Well, she provided it to our group. And so I'm going to drop this as you can download it from the show notes or go to my website and grab it. But this way, and it's all what Danielle and her team Kickstart Accounting recommend for healthy percentages in your business. All right. So for example, I met with a business owner not that long ago that was telling me that they charged $185 for a physical therapy session. And they, as the studio, only kept $30. So that means with the $30 that she kept, she has to pay taxes. She has to pay the rent, she has to pay the utilities, she has to pay the equipment, she has to pay do the marketing, right? So and herself with the $30 that's left over. That does not make for a profit margin. And I don't like to see business owners who are making low 5 figures because all of the money is going out to their team or to other expenses. And once again, I'm not telling you to pay your team less. I'm saying that your pay rates and your pricing and your expenses all have to align with each other. I had 2 Pilates instructors. not even physical therapists, Pilates instructors make one made over six figures last year and one made very, very close to six figures. And I had a 15% profit margin in the business. So it's doable. You can do it. Now, did they work full time? Yeah, they taught 30 to 32 hours a week, client facing, which is a lot, but they're making six figures and they get vacation, they get health insurance, they get continuing education stipends, so it is doable. So that's one of the things I just want you to think about. Now, it doesn't, if you're like, holy crap, I'm doing this totally wrong, you're doing what you thought was right. And in the words of the amazing Maya Angelou, when you know better, do better. So when you know better, now you know better. Now you have to sit down and look at your business and say, where can I do better? How can I do better? Right? It's like for me, when I first took my first Schroff based, Pilates workshop, I was floored by all the information I did not know. And I had been a physical therapist probably for like 10 years already at that point. And I was like, holy cow, how have I not known this? And I didn't think like I've been doing things wrong. I was like, wow, with this information, I need to do things better. And I can't unknow that stuff. So when I have a client right now that has scoliosis and can do flexion and can do short spine, I know that that's not the right thing to do. So I don't do those exercises with her because I know that even though she can do those exercises and she can do them without pain, doesn't mean she should be doing them because I could be risking future pain in her back. So if you're choosing not to change, okay, then you're choosing where you are right now. If you're choosing not to change your structure, you don't have to change it overnight. You could do it very slowly. But if you're choosing not to change the structure, once you have this information, you're choosing this unsustainable, non-profitable business. You have the choice. We all have the choice. Now, we might not like that choice. We might be like, holy cow, how am I going to do this? How am I going to pay my people less? No, it's work with a coach like myself or get a coach, right? But get somebody that really understands business, because the amount of people that I talk to whose former business coach told them to pay their team 60%, is there's a lot of people out there that are not thinking properly about business. Okay. And so make sure that whoever you work with, and I wouldn't say your accountant, because your accountant doesn't understand your business. They understand paying taxes. That's it. Work with someone that understands the inside out of a boutique fitness and wellness business that is where you would like to be, right? We don't ask directions from someone that's never been where we're going. We ask directions from people that have been there and can help us get there. So I know this was a lot, but I want you to know that there are businesses out there. I am proof of it. Okay. That you can have a sustainable and a profitable business where I, as a business owner, take home a six-figure salary. And my business has multiple six figures in profit. And my team gets paid well. And I have a high payroll. We have 3 administrators. I have a director of operations. So I have a high payroll. I could probably be more profitable if I ran it a little leaner, but I want my team to be supported. I want to pay my team well, and the business is doing great. They all serve a purpose. So if there's anything that you take away from this is, let's do a deep dive into your business. Let's look at your numbers and see if you even have the capacity and the bandwidth to be profitable. Okay. And what small steps can you take today that in 12 months from now will equal a big, large leap. Because you can turn it around and you can get more cash flow in the bank. You can finish the year with, 6 figures in your bank account that will make you feel much more comfortable making business decisions in the future. So I'd love to hear what you think about this podcast. Seriously, is it, oh yeah, I know all that information? Or are you like, wow, I had no idea? I'd love for you to DM me over on Instagram. I'm at Christa Gurka, and let me know what you thought. Let me know if this was eye-opening, or if you're like, no, I feel really proud of myself. I'm doing a great job. Let me know. DM me over on Instagram. Share this podcast with anyone you think it could benefit. I would love for you to do that for me. And go ahead and grab the download. It's in the show notes here, where you can go to, or you can go to www.christagurka.com/healthy percentage, and you can grab that download. All right. Until next time, my friends. Bye for now.